Happy belated birthday, CJS 1982! Woohoo! Alright, to celebrate, we're going to be talking about Pennsylvania State Route 10 because it goes from his former hometown of Oxford, Pennsylvania, which we can see right here, and it goes up to Reading. So let's take a look at the map of the route of Pennsylvania 10. We can see that it is not a particularly long route, only goes about 45 miles or so entirely in southeastern Pennsylvania. And before we start talking about this route, I must remind you, as usual, if you like my road videos that I do on this channel, please be sure to leave a like and a comment down below if you want to tell me anything about this route or if you have any feedback or whatever. And if you really enjoyed it, please be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications. So without further ado, let us now start talking about Northbound Pennsylvania Route 10. And here in Oxford, we can see that to begin, we are going to have a very, very brief concurrency with Pennsylvania Route 472, which is getting signed for Quarryville, and our first control city is Cochranville. And CJS 1982 told me that you could make an argument for signing Reading on this entire route, because Pennsylvania 10 is actually the fastest route from here to Reading, and, you know, it's not a very far distance. Also, I just don't like seeing Cochranville at all there, because it is an unincorporated community with like 700 people, and eventually we will be going to a town that is like 6 times bigger and actually would make a lot more sense as a control city. But anyways, here is where we split off of Pennsylvania 472, and there is a direction sign in the background after you would have already made the turn, and I don't like where that is placed. Also, there should be, I'm assuming, a Pennsylvania 472 keystone right there, but it appears to have fallen off and it has not been replaced. Here is a closer look at this direction sign where, once again, we can see that we are getting signed for Cochranville and 472 goes over to Quarryville. A little bit up the road, we are meeting US 1 and it is getting signed for Rising Sun in 8 miles and Kennett Square in 15 miles. And this right here should absolutely say Baltimore and Philly, because from this point, US 1 is the fastest route to Philly, and US 1 doesn't go directly into Rising Sun. It meets up with a couple Maryland state routes that will take you there. So I'd say even like Bel Air would be a better choice than this, and they should at least have that on there, if not just Baltimore. And again, that Kennett Square should be Philly. Now here we are meeting Pennsylvania Route 41, and it is getting signed for Eklund and Avondale. I'm not really too sure how to feel about those control cities. And we are now getting signed for Parksburg, which I feel like is what you should have gone with at the beginning of Pennsylvania Route 10, and absolutely not Cochranville, if not just straight up Reading, because this is the town I was referring to, which has 6 times as many people as Cochranville and is actually like a real town. So yeah, I didn't like that. But anyways, here in Parksville, we're meeting Pennsylvania 372. And actually, this is looking at the southbound perspective of Pennsylvania 10, because I couldn't find a direction sign on Northbound 10, but it is getting signed for Coatesville and Parksburg. Parksburg is on there really just because this is sort of on the outskirts of Parksburg. We are not really downtown. And if we look on Pennsylvania 372, we can see that we are now getting signed for Honeybrook, and I think that could be alright, because we meet US 322 there, and Honeybrook is like 1,000 people or something like that. So, I think it's okay. Maybe you could just go with Reading again, because, you know, this is not a long route to begin with, and, like, there's really no other route you could take to Reading. But anyways, now we are meeting US 30, and it is getting signed westbound for Lancaster, which is absolutely the right choice, and it is also getting signed for Coatesville, which I'm kind of iffy about, actually. I'm not sure if you should sign 30 eastbound for Philadelphia. Yes, it goes there, but, like, Coatesville is also, like, 15,000 people, so I think it's not a horrible choice for 30. So, I don't know. Either way, we are still getting signed for Honeybrook at this intersection. And now, in Honeybrook, as I mentioned before, we are meeting US 322, and it is getting signed eastbound for Downingtown. That works. Westbound for Beartown? What is Beartown? I had never heard of that before I had done my 322 eastbound original video, which I recently rebooted, by the way. You can go check that out up in the cards. And, like, I didn't think it made sense there, but it wasn't worth talking about, because, you know, I was talking about eastbound. I only found out now that Beartown is, like, really, really tiny. It should be Ephrata for westbound, but whatever. Also, once again, I could not find a direction sign on northbound 10 here, so I looked at southbound. And on 322 itself, we are now getting signed for Morgantown, which has, like, only about 800 people or so, but we need the turnpike there, also Interstate 176, so I think it does have merit. And if you were to go to Reading, taking 176 would be faster, so yeah, I think Morgantown is alright. Just outside of Morgantown, we are meeting and going to have a brief concurrency with Pennsylvania Route 23, and I looked from all 4 directions at this intersection, and I could not find any control cities at any of the perspectives. So that's pretty lame that we don't get any information except for these keystones. And then, as soon as we make the right turn onto Pennsylvania 23, we get this funny Junction North Interstate 176 sign. Just because of that stoplight up there. Like, technically, yes, this is how you would get to... Like, this is one way you can get to 176. But you're not meeting it right here. This should say 2 North 176 turn left. But anyways, here in downtown Morgantown, we are splitting off of Pennsylvania Route 23, and we can see that we are now getting signed for Beckersville, which is like an unincorporated community. I feel like that should still say Reading, because, yeah, it's faster to take 176, but, like, you know, Reading is a big city, and I feel like it is important to sign. And we're going to have another option to take 176 coming up shortly. So, yeah. Here is actually the only mileage sign I could find on Pennsylvania 10 northbound. They're pretty stingy about those on this route, which is quite unusual for PennDOT. But anyways, we can see that Beckersville is now on the top line at 7 miles away. And we have Green Hills on the bottom at 9 miles away. I feel like you should only just have one of these being on the top line and have Reading on the bottom line, because we're going to have another meeting with Interstate 176, and that is the faster route to Reading. So yeah, just keep one of those on the top line. You don't need both of them here. Here's where we cross over the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and on the Turnpike we can see a sign for the upcoming exit that it is going to have with us. Here is where you would turn on to the Pennsylvania Turnpike from Pennsylvania 10. And then here is the second meeting of Interstate 176 that we have. And it gets signed for Green Hills and Reading. Okay, yeah, technically it's faster to take 176 to get to Green Hills from here. But it's also going to Reading, which is a massive city. So I feel like you really don't need Green Hills on there. And now we are meeting Pennsylvania Route 568 and going to have an extremely brief concurrency with it. It's so short that if you look in the background, you can see a keystone with a left arrow telling you that that's how you get on to westbound 568, leaving this extremely, very, very, very brief concurrency. And eastbound 568 is getting signed for Gibraltar. I don't know exactly how you say that. But anyways, I decided to skip to the end of Pennsylvania Route 10. We get an end Pennsylvania Keystone as we meet Business US 222 here. And northbound, it gets the absolutely wonderful control city of Allentown. Because obviously it will link back up to US 222, which will then go to Allentown. So that is great stuff there, PennDOT. And we will now talk about southbound Pennsylvania Route 10. And at this intersection, we can see that we are getting signed for Green Hills. And we also get some information about US 422, which is getting signed west for Lebanon. And eastbound, it gets signed for Pottstown and Morgantown. I feel like that should just say, like, Pottstown and King of Prussia or something like that, because we're also going to Morgantown, and I feel like that's what you should list on Pennsylvania 10. But then again, I guess it's also faster to take 176, but like, I don't know. This is all kind of weird, except for the Lebanon. That does make sense. Here is where we meet 176 going this direction, and it gets the same control cities as before, and I really feel like the Green Hills is just super redundant on this sign, because we just came from Green Hills. Why would you want to go back there? Ugh, so stupid. Also, we meet the Turnpike once again, and it got signed for Philadelphia and Harrisburg. I didn't show this on the northbound because, I mean, I feel like it would have been pretty obvious that it would get signed that, but here's just to show you, yes, that's what it is. In downtown Morgantown, or at least at our main intersection in Morgantown, there's not really much of a town to Morgantown. We are meeting and going to become concurrent with Pennsylvania 23 once again as we get signed for Honeybrook, and we get Lancaster on this sign, which is on there for Pennsylvania 23, and there are a couple other way smaller places they could have signed Pennsylvania 23 for, but no, they go right for Lancaster here. And you know what? I'm going to give this a rare Pennsylvania W, because that is just really cool that they're signing a state route for such a massive place like Lancaster. That is really cool to see. And then after we split off from Pennsylvania 23, we get another mileage sign, the only other one I could find on this route. But it is just a one-liner with Honeybrook at 5 miles away. I feel like you should mention Parksburg or even Oxford at this point, because, you know, there's still other towns that exist beyond Honeybrook. So this is pretty lame. Also really lame that we don't get mileage signs at most, like after most intersections. Anyway, now we are meeting US 30 once again. It gets signed for Lancaster as well, and signed for Coatesville once again. I feel like it makes even more sense to sign Coatesville in this direction, because if you're going this way, you already would have had multiple routes to get to Philly. So yeah, I think it definitely is reasonable to sign here. here we are meeting Pennsylvania 41 once again, and in this direction we don't get any control cities, although we do see this alternate truck South 82 keystone, so that is interesting. And now we are meeting US 1 again. It gets the same control cities that it did before, which are absolutely not the right choices at all. And now we come into Oxford once again, and we get an N, Pennsylvania 10 keystone as we meet Pennsylvania 472. And just for kicks, here are 472's control cities, as we can also see a direction sign for northbound Pennsylvania 10 getting signed for Cochranville. Alright, let us now talk about quarter launch 437's the way it should be for Pennsylvania Route 10. And I'm going to say that for northbound, I agree with CJS 1982. It should be Reading the entire way. Everything else along the way could just be secondaries, because from Oxford, it is the fastest route to Reading. But then for southbound, I would say from the start, go ahead and sign Morgantown, because, you know, it's the first sort of big thing you're going to hit along the way. And then after that, I would go for Honeybrook, because, you know, meeting 322, and that's a pretty significant route. And then Parksburg, because that's like the next sort of important town along the way. And then I would sign Oxford the whole rest of southbound Pennsylvania 10. So with that, let me now tell you about my future plans for the next few control city videos on this channel. Next up is going to be my US 501 video. It should be basically done by the time you're seeing this. It'll be going up very shortly. And then after that, we are going to do the westbound US 322 reboot. And then after that, it will be my Morgantown, West Virginia trip video. So with all that said, thank you all for watching this video about Pennsylvania Route 10. Once again, happy belated birthday to CJS 1982, who wanted me to do this route for that reason. And I'll see you guys in whatever video I upload next. Have a good one, everybody.